TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.
Hello viewers, welcome to another interesting edition of Green Housing on your number one housing television, Housing TV Africa. My name is Ubong Usoro and I'm your host for Green Housing. I'm super excited to be back on this program today, and trust me, we have an interesting topic as we look at how we can make our society, our environment more sustainable, make our environment better, and just a place that we can live and we'll actually be happy at the end of the day. That's what we do on the show. We bring experts, we show opinions, and we help organize our views to be able to pull through policy actions. Welcome to Green Housing on Housing TV Africa. Let's go for a short break, and when we're back, we'll get straight to our discussion today. Don't go nowhere.
Get credible and authentic housing news at your fingertips by downloading the Housing TV mobile app. You can also join the African International Housing Show live from across the globe through the Housing TV mobile app. The mobile app features live streaming and trending housing news. You can locate the AIHS venue via the app, network with AIHS seasoned speakers, and live chat with exhibitors. You can also order house or building materials at AIHS via this app. Download the Housing TV mobile app now from the App Store and Google Play Store. And don't forget to click on the notification button. Available for both iOS and Android users. Housing TV is also on Star Times, channel 149 decoder.
Welcome back to the program Green Housing. My name is Ubong Usoro. This is a program where we discuss topical climate, topical environmental issues, topical issues that concern us every day. Climate change is actually one thing that is destroying Nigeria, destroying Africa, from rising temperature to unpredictability of rainfalls that we have today, flooding, deforestation. We could just mention the impact. It is so undeniable that climate change is destroying a lot of things that we do. What are the policies? What are those solutions that we have? And that's why we want to discuss today on the topic that says how to actually combat climate change through local action, fighting climate change through local action, fighting climate change through local action. That is actually the topic that we're talking about today. And with me in the studios to help make sense of the discussion today is Suleiman Akande. He's going to correct me if the names are not, if I didn't get the names right. He's a climate change advocate, a human rights activist, co-founder of the Climate Change and Environmental Research Group called CERG, okay? And he's also a specialist in climate research. He has done a lot of things, sustainable urban mobility, alternative energy, and he has a background in geography, remote sensing, and actually trained more than 200 farmers, especially women and youth, in global climate solutions. And we're happy to have you, Mr. Suleiman Akande. Quite a combination. Suleiman sounds like should be from the north, and Akande should be a Yoruba name. Okay, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Do you want to tell us how where we have the combination in the name?
Okay, actually, Suleiman is just like Arabic name for Solomon. You understand? That is a Suleiman for the Muslims, or Solomon for the Christian. Okay. And Akande is my surname. I'm actually from Ilorin in Kwara State, North Central Nigeria. That is a blend. We are more, in climatology, we used to have what we call the ITCZ. Is that not? That Intertropical Convergence Zone. So when it comes to cultural infusion, the North Central remain the convergence zone of culture, both down south and down north. I would say I'm a mixture of both. He
has a background in geography, and I studied geography too for my first degree. Actually awesome. So let's talk about the work you've done in local climate action. How far have we gone as a country? Because some persons are saying climate change, we have a lot of seminars, emails left, right and center, attend one conference or the other, but it seems we are packing all of the solutions, all of the meetings to the town, to the urban centers. Local actions, what is happening in the local communities concerning climate change?
Thank you very much, Ubon. This program wouldn't have come at a better time than this. And over the years, whenever I attend seminars, programs, or talk shows like this, or TV interviews like this, what I always say is that over the years, climate change is a global problem that is established. But the solution must be homegrown. Over the years, we have imbibed a culture of copying what is happening globally, then you dump it here, without really thinking inward. How do we apply local solutions to this problem? Remember, the environment or the globe itself has no windows. That is, we all live in a global village. Whatever happens in the South Pole may surely affect whoever in the world, in the North Pole, among other things. So the idea is this: seminars, conferences, symposium, all these are not really, let me not say they are not really, in the meantime, they are not really solving the problem they should solve. You know why? I and you will meet at seminars, we talk about them. That is experts talking to experts. Why don't you go to the grassroots and talk to the little people? And one thing you should understand about climate change is that you should also understand that this is a topic that is very controversial in itself. That is, even a lot of educated people still call it a ruse. They still don't believe in the science of climate change. Now, talk of people that you said they are not really educated. You know, it takes a lot to really convince them that, oh, this thing you are doing has effect on your life. If not your life, your children unborn will pay for this. So until we go down to the grassroots and start telling them, Oga, when you're growing up, this is not the pattern of rainfall. When you're growing up, harmattan does not used to happen at this time of the year. Don't you think something has changed? I think we'll get it right going down to the grassroots.
Okay, so I think one of the things that really concerns this advocacy to the grassroots is about communication. A lot of people in the grassroots do not understand the science behind climate change. Climate change is a science. We have climatology as a field of study, scientific. Sometimes you need to even understand atmospheric physics. I remember those days.
To really make sense of those things.
To really understand the parameters and this and that. And so, how do we communicate science to my grandmother who is in the village, who doesn't have any formal education? How can this be done?
It is simple. You see, someone says that one of the problems we have these days is that we try, first thing is that we must make complex issues simple. And the problem of our education system in Nigeria and by extension Africa is that we tend to if I can use that word, we grammaticalize some of these sciences, and it makes it very hard for people to understand. If you're teaching physics, for example, that is, you're teaching physics in English, that is, you are more or less like learning two things. You first learn the English name, then before you learn the applications. But for example, let's assume most of the elements or some of the SI unit were able to convert it to something I can understand in my mother language. It tends to stick more than what we have. So right from our curriculum, it is true, climate change is an issue. We have problem right from the curriculum, even in our basic educations. Now, let's now talk of the climate change as it affects the whole society. How do we make the science of climate change understandable to the layman on the street? Since even the educated people are even still calling it a ruse, how does the layman now make sense of it? It's very simple. What you do is that you start asking questions. You make them own the advocacy. How do they own the advocacy? It's like saying it, Oga, the last 10 years, your harvest used to be more than this. Oga, this rainfall you are seeing is not normal. You start having abnormal rainfall. Oga, this wind you are seeing is not normal. Your degradation is happening to your farm. You are losing your farm size. Your farm size used to be as big as this. Look at what degradation, erosions have done to your farm. That is, these are things they see everywhere, but they attribute it to other things. But as scientists, we know that nothing is causing this thing than climate change. So until we make them see sense of these things, applying it to their local balance, and even in some cases they will say, oh, this rainfall that has fallen in some culture, they will say, oh, it is the god of water that is angry. They attribute such a flood to that. They will say, oh, this harvest I'm having these days, maybe it's because I have not appeased the gods. Are you getting it? So until we simplify the science of climate change and make it that, no, it has nothing to do with supernatural power. All this is just a case of our actions and inactions over the year. In essence, let us simplify the science of climate change.
I'm still going to ask about the local actions, because I know you've gone to communities, I know you've been in the field, you understand what it means to actually go through. I remember those days, they would say some geographers are armchair geographers.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I know you're not an armchair, advocate. You've actually been to the field. How do we make people take ownership of this battle against climate change? Because some people feel that the advocacy is for maybe profits, maybe to make gains, and just feel, is it not just a new way of coming out to shout SDGs? We've heard of it before. Maybe we are getting funding. So I'm asking two questions. One, how do we make people take ownership? Number two, in a time where we have foreign organizations withdrawing their support from some of these things, we've seen US aid, for instance, there are so many persons may be laid off or are already being laid off as a result of more countries are becoming nationalistic in approach. How do we fund climate change? Because I think we are not doing enough as a country. Looking at the data we have, most of the funding comes from international organizations, from NGOs that are supported by people outside. Maybe we feel Nigeria, how many, what is our carbon footprint that we should even be concerned? So, one, how do we make people take ownership? And number two, how do we sustain the fight? Basically.
First, let me just take it from where I stopped earlier. Ownership is easy. You cannot take ownership of what you don't understand. There is poor knowledge of climate change among people. And I remember I was talking to someone the other time, very educated and exposed person. I said, oh, Suleiman, you have been making advocacy about climate change. Do you know that this climate change is just a creature of the West? Just like we still have people that don't even believe in COVID up to tomorrow.
Even HIV.
Even HIV. Are you getting
even
that?
The science backing it.
Science backing it. It's so glaring. Then I now make an analogy. I now say, you see, there is one thing. I think it's just a kind of neglect, general neglect of our environment. And because there is one thing that someone says, for every other thing in the world as replacement. And one thing is that we must protect this irreplaceable home that we call Earth. Ask ourselves, if we decide to jeopardize this only home we have, myself and you say, where do we run to? Do we run to other planets to go and live? Which some of them are not even habitable for us. Now, ownership is that we must first make people understand that this thing exists. The moment they say they understand that this thing exists, ownership comes automatically. And the argument is this: if engineers come around and told you that, oh, people, the bridge ahead is not safe for traveling, it will collapse, I believe people will listen. They will not take that bridge. They will say, no, no, no. Engineers have said that this bridge may collapse. They only. Then the question you ask is this: why is it that when climate scientists come out and tell you that our climate is changing, our globe is warming, the stratosphere is suffering, why can't people just listen and understand? No, these are expertise. They are talking, they know what they are saying. I think that's the answer to the first questions. So until ownerships come and we stop denying that our climate is changing, I think ownership comes automatically. People now see reason why they should take care of the heart and start advocacy themselves right from their backyard. Then number two, funding. You see, the truth is this: the argument, if you look at right from the Kyoto Protocol, the Kyoto Protocol, a lot of COP protocols we have in the world. The argument is this: African countries and other developing countries will go there, will start begging for aid, for climate financing and everything. The truth is this: Africa, Nigeria, by extension Africa, are not the major contributors to climate change. That's just the truth. Science, research, and everything have established it. But you know why? We are the most affected nations when it comes to the issue of climate change. The reason is simple. We have low preparedness, low adaptations, and we don't really have a buffer that could change all these things. So actually, it's a mixed reaction for me personally that most of these international NGOs and most of these donor countries are withdrawing their support for the issue of climate change. Then it is high time we start looking inward. We start looking inward. How do we combat this thing? It's very simple. Let's go back. If it is massive afforestation, massive greening practices, massive enlightenment, right from the locals down to the, and most importantly, remember, most of these effects of climate change takes years or even centuries to reverse itself. But the best time to start this was yesterday. The next best time is what?
It's now. No. Amazing, amazing. Since we are talking about local action, we have, let's talk about green energy transition and how it has to do with those in the local communities. Because, yes, we are talking about, let's move to greener options that will save us, the emissions will not be high, combustion, and all of this English that we say. But at the end of the day, it boils down to financing. Because, yes, in Housing TV, we are fully powered with solar. We could do everything from morning till night if there's no power, and it's good. But should I tell you the price of getting our buildings fully powered? It comes with a high price. Many Nigerians cannot afford that price. So when we advocate for green transition, how many Nigerians can actually afford? And we're talking about those in the local communities. So for somebody like you who've done rural work, you understand these people better. What are the options they have in transition?
Yeah, transition, you see, someone says unlearning is harder than learning. It is very hard to unlearn what you have been used to for a long time. And change becomes something that people really find it hard to also change. Let me tell you a very, very funny something that happened. Most of this energy, they don't come cheap. Clean energy, advocacy, okay, let's switch to it, they don't come cheap. But the idea is this: how much is a kg of a gas now?
Maybe 1.5. Or
thereabout. The question is this: can an average Nigerians afford such? The answer may be no for most people. Then the firewood and everything comes cheap. You just come go back to the backyard and they will pick it. So if you are not trying to tell them that, oh, let us advocate for a new form of energy, the first question they ask is that you're asking me to drop this. What alternative have you provided? Now, that is where we all need to come on board and sit down and look at how do we provide alternative sources of energy. That is number one. We must make sure that these energies are cheap. If they are accessible, I believe using firewood to cook, using charcoal to cook, every human being knows it is not safe for their health. It is very hard to work on. If all these things comes cheap, you don't even need to beat people. You don't need to make any enforcement. People will drop it naturally. They will die natural death. First thing is that make sure that the alternate source of energy we are advocating for, they come cheap. Yeah. Number two is advocacy. I was telling someone that, do you know that some people still use kerosene up to today? And do you know what they sell kerosene now? Very expensive. Are you getting that? But they don't have that alternative. Are you getting it? So that's another thing. Then number three is that we must work on our energy transition plan. Bring it close to the people. You understand? Whereby every home is what is powered in one way or the other. And there will always a kind of something happen. We went for an advocacy in a particular community at a time. You know what we did? We're trying to provide for them alternative source of energy. So we give them solar. Are you getting that? So after giving them solar, we're supposed to go back for a need for a kind of monitoring and evaluation, like after 6 months. It's a very local community. They live in their mothers and everything. So after that 6 months, we went there. Will you believe that all the houses, the solar panels are gone? Ask me what happened. The reason is simple. Yeah, I believe you want to know. You know what happened? We now call them, okay, just last 6 months, we felt you people have been in darkness for long. We are trying to provide a solar panel for you to work on. And we come around now, we find out that the only thing we met is the bulb. The solar panel is gone. What happened? They said it's simple. And some people came around, they started pricing the solar panel. They felt that there is need for them to sell it. That is, we are discussing climate change, we start discussing poverty. What another thing that fuels climate change in this part of Africa is poverty. People are poor, so they don't care about the environment.
They just want to survive.
They just want to survive. You understand? You remember the Maslow law of survival. You understand? It is after people have taken care of food, shelter, and clothing that they think of other things that, oh, the environment needs to be taken care of. Then we now sat down after going back to our office, and I told you that that's about local actions. That is, you are providing a solution to people in the locality without really understanding their problem. We thought that, okay, let's provide clean energy for them. Rather, which means in the advocacy, we now gave the report that the advocate should have helped or take care of their poverty first before we provide alternative source of energy for them.
And poverty may not be a one year.
Thank you. It's even something that we met with them, so we cannot just solve it overnight. So rather, so most of the alternative government, NGOs, and other people have been advocating. It's just like you only cure the symptoms, you don't cure the disease.
Wow, amazing discussions we're having in the studio. I have Suleiman Akande, who is actually an expert in climate change, and we're discussing local actions. How can we help those in our local communities to be part of this advocacy, to understand the science behind climate change and all of this? And he's been, actually giving us strong indications and making sense of this discussion. Let's go for a short break, and when we're back, we'll conclude the discussion for this particular episode. Don't go nowhere.
This is Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing TV Africa. On Twitter, Housing TV Africa. Instagram, Housing TV Africa.
Welcome back. This is Green Housing on Housing TV Africa. My name is Ubong Usoro. Here we discuss the issues of climate change and how we can further make our environments more habitable, more adaptable, bring in mitigation strategies to fight this monster that is killing a lot of people unknowingly. People may not know because the symptoms seems like everyday symptoms, according to Akande. Now, let's talk about, since we're still looking at local actions and what we could do in the local community, we talked about the problem of poverty. Multidimensional poverty, could affect the way people reason, could affect even the information that they are able to receive, because somebody who's hungry, who's not eating since morning, and you're going with the gospel of climate change, it doesn't really make sense to the person, does it? So those are some of the questions. I'd like to ask, since you've done the work there, is there a working plan? Is there an implementation carried out by the government of Nigeria, at least to the best of your knowledge? Because we are part of several treaties, several conventions, the Paris Agreement, you just mentioned different conventions that we've assented a signature to, that we are going to be doing as a country. So do you see willingness on the part of government to be part of this struggle?
Yeah. I think the government is has really gone a long way. I think one of them is that a law was passed in 2022 also that has to do with a climate action plan, and we have an agency that has to do with the issue of climate change for now. And most of the government projects are centered around sustainability, among other things. So government are showing the will and the desire to solve some of these problems. But you see, it is multifaceted. That is, government alone cannot do this. We have a lot to do. That is, as federal government is doing, the state government will also come in, right to the local government. And you see, the truth is this: climate actions must start at the local level. That's just the truth. It must be a bottom-top approach. That is, right from the corner of my house, I'm doing something. You are doing something. The next person is doing something. That is a kind of, the summation of all these actions will also translate into something very, very, very meaningful. And one of the simulations we were able to run in our group is that one of the research practices we were able to run in our group is that, okay, in solving each of these climate change, let us simulate how every actions to combat climate change work, and how does it work better. Okay, we're able to test. Okay, let's test afforestation. We program for afforestation. Okay, if we decide that, okay, let's start planting tree, 1,000, they kind of do the last one. How does it react? We run a simulation. We saw that using the vegetation index among other things. Okay, we say that, okay, if it is not afforestation, wherever we are now, let us stop deforestation. Does it also regenerate back? We saw that. But the truth is this: we now find out that the simplest way of combating this is just that we need to start aggressive afforestation. It is the cheapest, most effective, and best way to combat the issue of climate change. That is, in government plan, that government must not approve buildings that doesn't have setback, that doesn't have courtyard, that doesn't have green areas. Look at it now. Because the development, we are busy developing at an aggressive stage without thinking of the environment. How many green areas are gone now? How many houses are built with orchards? How many houses are built with at least trees around them? People don't care about that again. So we must change that orientation. That is on that's on the part of government. No building part or permit should be given to anyone that has not planted a tree in their house. Or the existing one should also be reviewed. That, oh, you need to plant at least one tree. Imagine how far those could go. So these are shown to be the most, even when the funds are not coming, when the aids are not coming, there are things we can do locally. And for God so good, we have a lot of genetically modified trees now that doesn't take years for them to grow. Why don't you adopt all these things? So these are things I think.
Somebody was suggesting, should we have like a vanguard, a group of people that are paid to go down and give this information? There should be more concerted effort. Yes, the NGOs have done a lot, but work that you are doing out of volunteer work, it cannot be compared to something local actions that people are actually paid, people are monitored, because this is a great deal. What do you think about that idea?
That is very fantastic. You see, without NGOs, maybe our situation would have been worse more, because I must tell you that most of these NGO in climate actions have done a lot of work, but I still believe that we still have more to do. And until we take ownership, allow local people take ownership of these things, simplify the science of climate change. You cannot just tell me that they are having enough rainfall. They want to ask you why. Because some of them believe that no, it's not normal. It is one of their gods that is angry. That's why there is enough rainfall. Oh, there is no rainfall. The gods are angry. Because you start asking yourself, when gods are angry, you have more rainfall. When gods are angry again, you don't have rainfall. You now start asking yourself. So your gods either give or withdraw it. Are you getting? So until we start simplifying the science of climate change, and how do we do that? Local communities. And how do you get local community? There's something they call social stratification also. Are you getting it? That is right from family. Preach the gospel. I start from my house. You start from your house. That each of us, when we meet in the community, we now start preaching the same gospel again. That is, start telling people in the local churches, local mosques, town hall meetings. Start telling them, oh, hello, we are doing this today. And you must see a lot of NGOs and civil climate actions have been doing that. But the problem is this: how do you sustain it? But because when you hear something once in a year, compared to what you hear almost every week, it becomes part of you. You form an habit from that. So we should make it a part of it. The government should have a kind of what they call a green vanguard. I believe some states have it now, whereby people go down to local communities, clean your gutters. We can't just make it about clean your gutters, don't block the waterways. We should also encourage people on how to fight climate, either by planting trees, living responsibly, and imbibing the act of clean energy.
Okay, so before we go, I'd like to ask you, how satisfied are you with the work you've done? Do you think you could have done more, or do you think there's still lots of work to be done?
Yeah, that is why we are open for collaboration. There is still a lot of work to be done. As I said, the number of people we have met are small compared to the number of people we still need to meet. And you start asking yourself, you can, thank God this is an area you have really worked very well and you understand the terrain. This is something that is very engaging in terms of time, financial implications, among other things. But to the glory of God, we have been able to meet a lot of people. And I must tell you, some of our orchards, some of our nursery, some of our trees we have planted, whenever we drive across that place, you have a kind of fulfillment that, oh, I planted this tree and it is growing. So I think I am fulfilled, but we can still be. So
somebody sent a question to me. He said, transitioning to electric vehicle, is it climate friendly?
Yeah, it is very realistic. And you see, the truth is this. I think this part of the world, just like I also work on a program that is the Sustainable Urban Mobility Project I was telling you about. The world is leaving us behind, and I must tell you this. And if care is not taken, you will be using typewriter knowledge in a computer age. You know, you are very, very far behind. If you go to other advanced countries, They are even transitioning from CNG now to EV, electronic vehicle, and we are still here battling with the use of using diesel and petrol to power our automobile. It is very realistic, but what comes with electronic vehicles is that it doesn't come cheap. That's number one. Number two, and the reason why it doesn't come cheap is that you don't have it all around. The number two is that accessibility. Because what people look for in most of these alternatives of energy is it comfortable? Do they have access to it? And number three is security. The number four, affordability. If these four things can be taken care of, the transition from most of these.
That's a consultation that you are giving.
Free of charge.
Thank you so much, Suleiman Akande. We've had an amazing show today, and that's the much we can take on green housing on Housing TV Africa. Suleiman Akande has actually done a lot of work in making sure that a local impact driven through the work is done with climate change. And keep watching Housing TV. That's the much we could take. Have for your day. For you, a blessed day. Goodbye. My name is Ubong Usoro. Enjoy yourself.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.